You are watching the Halos in the Infield podcast. From everything Halos to full series recaps to upcoming series projections for the fans by the fans. Enjoy the show.
Hey, welcome into another Halos in the Infield podcast. I saw Joel like rocking out right there in the screen, off screen right there. Well, it's a very special episode here. I'm your host again, Todd Fox, but I'm with Brooke Knows Baseball, the tandem that makes up that great page that covers all things MLB and much more. Brooke and Joel, how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing fantastic. Yeah, that was you have such a fun intro. I love it. Just even like the announcer voice and everything. Hello to everyone that doesn't know me. My name is Brooke. I'm with the social media account Brooke Knows Ball, and this is my production partner, Joel.
How's it going, everybody? Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're happy to have them on because they do a fantastic job. Now, on this page, as you know, as you follow us, we kind of like are in between. We don't go heavy analytics. We don't go heavy guts. We like to get a nice little balance. But when there's room for improvement and to learn new things, I think that's where we kind of like try to, share the wealth with the fans. And these guys put together a great page that breaks down the numbers and gives you different kind of perspectives on how baseball can be played and viewed and also logged. So it's going to be a very interesting episode. But first, we want to get into how you guys came up with the concepts or how your love of baseball has brought you guys together, and as well as getting this page going to where it is. Because if you haven't known, you've probably seen it in passing. I mean, it's all over social media. When they make these posts, they go pretty viral. So if you haven't done it yet, Brooke Knows Ball, look it up and follow. So there you go. So with that, I just stepped over my question. So again, I'll ask it. How'd you guys get started and whatnot?
Yeah, so how we got started with the page, we started our page on Instagram in August of 2025. TikTok was about a month prior to that. And really, I think the reason, there's multiple reasons, of course, there always is, right? But part of the reasons why we started the page was because Joel and I both really feel like in the world of baseball, there's so much narrative, so much storytelling, so many more nuances than I think sometimes we see nowadays. And we both come from an entertainment background. Joel has been a screenwriter for over 20 years. I stepped into the entertainment space within the last 5.5 years. And we weren't seeing enough baseball storylines. There are baseball storylines every single day in real life, but we just didn't feel like there was enough narrative behind it. And so we wanted to create a social media account that focused around the narrative, focused around the storytelling, but then we brought in a little bit of our nerdy side to it too, with the stats and the analytics.
That's a pretty good description of it. Like, we had a goal of making a television show in the baseball space. We were kind of trying to focus on that. And it was funny because producers really told us, there's no space for baseball TV shows or baseball movies anymore. It's just the interest isn't there, which we just shook our heads at because we know how passionate the fan base is. And obviously some of the greatest stories in film and television come from, when it comes to sports, come from baseball. So we just felt like there hadn't been really any good television shows or baseball movies for about 15 years. So we felt like, well, you know what, we're going to prove Hollywood wrong, and we're going to showcase and go directly to the audience. And if this is something worth making, then the audience will tell us, and they have.
Yeah, that's a great point, because it doesn't necessarily have to be a 2-hour movie or an hour and a half. Sometimes you can get your story out there in just a few minutes or a series. And the fact, I mean, going back, I mean, there's just not that many good baseball movies, like you said, recently. I mean, growing up, there was so many to pick from. It seems like Hollywood's gone away from sports movies in general. If it doesn't have an outside narrative that maybe has the game in the background, not featured, they'll do it. But we're not getting those featured baseball comeback movies or crazy stories,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny too, because usually when you ask someone what's your favorite baseball movie, there's an endless amount that you can choose from. But you're right, it's been about 15 years. I think 42 and Moneyball are the most recent ones that were really in the public sphere, and that was like 14 years ago. I want to say something around that.
Yeah,
12 is vanilla.
Yeah, it's unbelievable because growing up, I mean, you could handpick. There were so many movies that were coming out that were sports related, whether it was hockey, football, baseball, basketball.
Oh
You
yeah.
pick it. I mean, even bobsledding at one point. So you
There you
had your
About that
pick.
today.
Yeah,
go.
yeah, there you go. The Olympics. But your success has gotten, pretty viral. You know, like a lot of your videos. What was your most viral video you guys put together?
I think was that Ernie Clement?
Oh yeah, like we have a couple that maybe are just kind of posts about the sport in general. Like Ernie Clement had a speech coming off of the World Series where he was talking about just missing the guys on the team and that moment of like having to walk out the door and that team's not going to exist anymore and how heartbreaking that was for him. Like that wasn't
It's
even a real Brooke knows ball post, but it went and did about 3.5 million views,
Oh,
and
I think
then
it's done more than that since. But as far as like I guess Brooke
yeah,
forward,
so the content. Let's go with that.
it has been one of our stat videos, I would say, and then another one would probably be about. So the stat video is, I think, VOPS.
Yeah, I think
Maybe if I would
VOPS
just
did
guess off the top of my head, I want to say that it's VOPS, which is one of the stats that we have out there. And then if it were more on like the narrative side, I think that's probably Dave Steeb is a really good one.
And Tyler Skaggs.
Oh, Tyler Skaggs is see, Angels fans right here. So Tyler Skaggs was a really like a heart-wrenching but also heartwarming story, and I think that's why it did so well, and of course within our Angels community too.
Yeah, and let's get that little tie-in because I know Joel's wearing the Angels hat real quick, and also Brooke has the ties to the stadium. You guys want to give your Angels ties as fans, maybe not as fans of the team, but you've been around it quite some time, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, or at least myself locationally. So I grew up in Orange County, went to school out there, lived in the area for the majority of my life. So those were the games that I would go to all the time, were Angel Stadium, and I still believe that Angel Stadium is one of the best stadiums to travel to. It's so accessible. It's walking distance from, like, we go and we don't pay for parking because we know where to go to park. That's
Yeah.
like 2 blocks away, so you could just walk into the stadium. Like, it's a cheap date night but a great ballpark, and you get to see a great game. And Joel and I had many a date nights there last season, so always has a special place in my heart. And of course I grew up with Mike Trout too, so that was really cool to be so close to.
Yeah, and for me, I'm coming from Canada, so to be able to have a baseball team that is 10, 15 minutes away, and you can get a daytime ticket for $5 up in the 500s, and just the fact that it's so cheap, but it's good baseball. And like, don't get me wrong, the Angels weren't a postseason team by any stretch last year, but I think when we went and watched them play, I think they were something like 8-1.
Yeah, I think Joel and I just have to go to more Angels games because every single time that we were going, they were winning. So so
Yeah.
it was fantastic. We had a great experience, and we still do, every single time that we go there. So
We need to get you guys second half tickets then, because that's when they usually sputter out.
Yeah.
So we'll get you guys season tickets for August and September. There you go.
there we go.
That'll help the cause. Yeah, and we'll get to Joel and his team, his love for baseball in Canada in a minute here. But I want to pass this video on, so for those unfamiliar for what they do, here's a little bit of what they do. It's about a 2-minute clip or so about their latest video about the importance of and this is why I love this video so much, because it talks about certain hitters nowadays and how they approach things. But when it gets back to the old school players, you guys pulled some nice players on this one. So here we go real quick. Here we'll play this video for the fans.
You ever watch a superstar slugger take a 2-0 fastball down the middle with runners in scoring position? Yeah, that's the bane of my existence. Everyone loves OPS and slugging percentage, but they're only telling half the story. A guy can slug 600, but if he only gets 2 hits a week, who really cares? Power matters more when it shows up often. So I created a stat called volume slugging, or V-slug. We take slugging percentage, multiply it by total hits, then divide by games played. That's how much power a player actually produces in volume. Now if you add on base percentage, you've got volume OPS. Patience plus power scaled for impact. Now let's check the numbers. Juan Soto, 2024, his best year. Slugged .569 with 166 hits over 157 games. His V-slug, 601. Volume OPS, 1020. Joey Votto, 2015. .541 slug, 171 hits, 158 games. V-slug, 585. Volume OPS, 1044. Elite hitters, sure. But Soto's career high in extra base hits is 76. That's great, not incredible. And get this, he only swings at 60% of strikes. That ranks 162nd out of 169 qualified hitters. That's not patience, that's paralysis. Now let's talk about the bruisers from the past. 1995, Albert Bell. .690 slug, 173 hits in 143 games. V-slug, 836. Volume OPS, 1236. 20% better than Soto's best season. Just saying. 2000, Carlos Delgado. .593 slug, 172 hits, 161 games. V-slug, 803. VOPS, 1273. 25% better than Soto. 1994, Jeff Bagwell, .750 slug, 147 hits, 110 games. V-slug 1000, VOPS 1453. That is 45% better than Soto. These guys didn't wait for the perfect pitch. They came to hurt anything they could get their barrel on. So this may sound crazy, but I think there's another gear to Juan Soto's game, and that's changing his mentality to hit whatever he can get his barrel on, no matter the count, no matter the situation. And to his credit, it has been something he's been doing far more of lately. So, if you want the real story behind the stats, you already know who to follow, because Brooke knows ball.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I love the fact you pulled up Bell because he was so feared back in the day. But Carlos Delgado really got me because I remember going into the dugout one time. My dad had a friend that worked for the Angels and the Blue Jays were in town. And I got to talk to Carlos for like 5 minutes, and he had a huge notebook out, and he was charting every at bat that he's ever had against every pitcher. So this is before the tablets, guys. So I mean, that's why. I mean, if you ever needed to know why he was a good hitter, there you go.
Yeah, I think to that point, it feels like within the last couple of years, at least, like a lot of the hitters have slowed down their approach. They're waiting for the perfect pitch. And if that's your mentality, it's just, you're not going to perform better than the guy that's going to swing consistently. And that's really what we try to promote with V-slug, with VOPS really is, I'll give the example that I always need to use analogies. It's how my brain works. And we say, if you were to be a newspaper company and you hire 2 salesmen and it's just kids going on their news route, right? And one kid comes back and he's like, I sold 100% I got 100% sales rate at the houses that I went to. And another kid says, well, I got like 75% sales rate at the houses I go to. Naturally, just based off of those numbers, you're going to go for the kid that sells 100% or has 100% sales rate. But if you look into the context, which is what we try to do with VOPS, and kid 1 says, well, there's 100 houses in the neighborhood, but I knew that I could for sure sell this newspaper to 50 of them, so I only went to those 50 houses. And then kid 2 says, there's 100 houses in the neighborhood I went to, and I went to all 100 houses, and I sold 75 newspapers. Well, you're basically saying kid 2 has the better percentage. They have the better sales effectiveness, but kid 1 seems to be better just off of those initial numbers. So we're just pretty much trying to say that context matters
and volume
and the volume matters as well. You can have a lot of power, but if you don't have the volume behind it, what's the balance? Because I think there's a balance, right?
Yeah, and you see guys like we use this example a lot. Jazz Chisholm and Bo Bichette last year, both sitting around 830 OPS, and you're like, well, OPS is the number that pretty much every advanced offensive stat is kind of built off of. But you realize that Jazz Chisholm had about 110 hits in 130 games. Bo had 180 hits in about 135 games. So you're realizing that the volume, what you're paying these guys for is their bat to produce. And when you look at the numbers and you realize that the volume, when you factor in the volume, Jazz, his percentages drop about 30, 40 points. Bows go up about 150 points. So two guys who have the same OPS are 200 points separated in VOPS. So when you look at that, you realize that three true outcomes, specifically those types of players who are sitting there looking to either crush a home run or they strike out or they walk. By the time October rolls around, what ends up happening is strikeouts go through the roof, walks disappear, and power disappears. So you see those guys who are very dependent on those three true outcomes. Well, the most likely outcome is a strikeout. And then guys who are able to consistently hit pitches in all 9 quadrants of the strike zone, they succeed. And I think we used the Blue Jays last year as a really, really good example of a team that went more to a batting average approach, and they were able to put the ball in play consistently, and they were 1 out away, well,
Yeah.
2 outs away from winning the World Series last year. So, it goes to show that there isn't just one way to skin a cat. I don't want to use that metaphor, but that's kind of what we try to.
Sorry.
It's what
What
we.
an old metaphor.
Yeah, it is a very old metaphor. I don't know who's trying to skin a cat anymore.
Not my cats.
But yeah, it's kind of the idea that they're, if everybody's trying to win one way, there's always another way to get the job done.
And that makes a lot of sense because, the way to win baseball hasn't changed. And I think analytics in a way kind of tries to always reinvent the wheel. We've said it here in Anaheim. It's like if we would have went to a small ball or stayed in a small ball mentality, work walks, and then take advantage of the bigger bases and the chance that you can only throw over twice, take off the third time. So many times the Angels wouldn't take advantage of that. So many times you have first and second, nobody out, and the fans in the stands are screaming bunt, and we're swinging away, hitting into a double play or striking out. And you're right. When it gets to the postseason, the cream rises to the top. You're not facing the White Sox all the time. You're not facing the A's, and you're going to get the best pitchers who are looking to strike you out. And guys, I got to ask you, do you think launch angle has ruined current day baseball along a little bit too much analytics?
I think in some ways, I don't want to give a blanket statement and says it has, but I think in some ways the focus has become that, you're right, where guys are just trying to swing for the fences and get that launch angle. But what happens is if you're trying to come at an angle with the ball, the likelihood of you missing it increases so much, as opposed to if you're just trying to hit it dead on, if you slightly miss, then you end up getting the launch angle that everybody's been preaching for. So
Yeah.
it's in my mentality, and Joel and I have discussed this, but you're right as far as, or I feel you're right, because when it comes to the small ball approach and just results from that anyways.
Yeah, if you have a swing where the only place that you can produce is one specific spot in three-dimensional space, you're swinging up. So right here along this axis of a swing, that's where production happens, as opposed to here. Well, if I'm late, the ball's going opposite field. If I'm ahead, I'm pulling the ball. If I'm dead on it, I'm hitting it to center field. So having that level swing plane finds you success all over the field, whereas an upward swinging trajectory finds you success in a very, very small area. And this is a game where success is very, very, very hard to come by. So why are you decreasing your possibility of success by only having one spot in that strike zone where you can have that best possible outcome? And
usually the ball has to be in that specific spot, and your bat has to be in that specific spot. So making that the likelihood of that, well, we know what it is. So I think launch angle it's become a little bit too aggressive right now as far as the focus.
Great points, guys, because you just sometimes just putting the barrel in the bat, good things happen. But Joel brought up Chisholm, and I want to ask you guys about that since it's a quick sidebar note. if Chisholm were to make it more about barrel on the ball, more contact focused, and maybe swinging a little bit with that V slug, um, can you see his average going up in your mind compared to what he's doing now? Because he seems to be driving the ball more or trying to drive it more.
Well, yeah, I think having a singular approach, it's very, very limiting. So don't get me wrong. If you want to go up there and you get into a count where you want to take a swing for the fences, that's fine. But having that be your only approach to hitting the ball, that's why you're seeing guys. I know that a guy like Jazz Chisholm back in the 80s would probably be sat for half of the season because he's taking his speed out of play, right? Like that's a
Correct.
fast guy. That's a guy he's hitting from the left side of the plate. He's got that extra step. He's got incredible speed. Why, when you get to two strikes, are you trying to hit the ball into the stands when you could put something in play on the infield and have a really good chance of making it on base? And then you can always steal. You're a 30 steal type player. I feel like 5-tool players are limiting their potential because they're only focusing on one tool, and that one tool kind of eliminates your base running ability or your batting average. And then you see guys who put up really good OPS numbers, but they're driving in 75, 80 when they could very well be driving in 100. And I think kind of those old batting average runs batted in. This is all situational play. You have
Yeah.
to sit there and you have to know, well, what's going on right now? What is a 3-run homer the outcome that I need in a tie game in the 9th with a runner at third or second with less than 2 outs? Or is that base hit? Why should I be going for that 5% outcome when the 30% ball in play outcome will lead to the win, right? It just feels like you had said, the analytics and the approach of the reinvention of the game has gotten people thinking a lot more individually as opposed to what's best for their team. And that's why you see guys swinging and missing. And
that's why you see the Blue Jays making it all the way to 2 outs from a win, right? And I think that was at the beginning of last season, they were not projected to do that well. And a lot of people didn't expect them really to even make the postseason. And the fact that they went to the World Series 2 outs away from a win is because they really adopted that small ball approach.
Yeah.
And of course, the Dodgers had the opposite approach, but they also had the most stacked team you could possibly have. So that's why I think the two balanced each other out in the way that they did. But a lot of people were shocked by them, but Joel and I were just like,
yeah, our money was on them pretty early in the season.
Yeah.
And then, like Brooke said, to think that small ball with a team that nobody had any expectations for gets you right there to the end, 7 games with the Dodgers, where it's a coin flip on who's going to win. That tells me that a lot of small market teams should be focusing on putting the ball in play, batting average, speed, taking advantage of the rule changes that we've seen, and play that style, because money is spent on power. That's what the most expensive thing is in the game. So why try to do what everybody else does when there's another way to win out there? And it's just a little bit more consistency with the balls in play.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a really weird stat that I will throw at you.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Ground ball percentage. So if you hit the ball on the ground right now, the batting average on ground balls is actually higher than league batting average.
Wow.
So they consistently will tell you, do not hit the ball on the ground. But if you hit the ball on the ground, you are a better hitter than league average. So put the ball in the air, you can hit a home run. Batting average on fly balls is something like 080. Ground balls is like 248, which is weirdly enough higher than league batting average, which is really, really sad.
It has to do a lot with what is it called, speed, and also they can't shift anymore, so you got more of open area to hit.
Yeah, so your focus when you get to 2 strikes, if you can hit 248 by putting the ball in play, that's all I'm saying. Hey, I'm not saying don't try to drive one to the gaps and get one out if you're ahead in the count and you're going to keyhole something. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying when you're behind in the count and you've got 2 strikes, a ball on the ground is a hell of a lot better than a ball in the catcher's glove.
Yeah, nowadays the batting average is sinking the way they are. 248 could get you like 15 million a year. So who knows? But I will say this too: when what you guys are talking about going for those situational hits and going the other way, driving in the runs instead of hitting the home runs, I think that's what's taken away. Gone are the days of like your Juan Gonzalez's who would average like 130, 140 RBIs a year. Like I don't think we'll see that anytime soon. It's now getting rare to see guys in triple digits, unless they're like a real superstar.
Yeah,
You're
gone is the 300 hitter, it seems like, and which is to your point earlier, Todd, is I think sometimes there's so many analytics and metrics in the game, which is very ironic for us to say because we're coming up with new metrics, but there are so many analytics and metrics that it almost pulls us away from what the core is, which just getting
correct.
balls in play and seeing more action on the field. But that's why we've brought in the various stats that we have, is to bring it back to that classic approach of gameplay. A lot of people will talk about the feel of 80s, 90s, early 2000s ball, but they don't know how to quantify it. And now,
Mhm.
talking to your modern fan, or even going into arbitration and talking about your own value as a player, you need to be able to be equipped with the tools of analytics. So that's really where our metrics come to play, is we're quantifying the feel of the classic approach to the game.
Yeah, and not to get ahead of the topics, because obviously we're going to be talking about Mike Trout at some point, but we came up with an analytic based off of the eye test of just watching Mike Trout play, right? So a lot of our stats aren't just numbers being thrown at the wall for the sake of throwing numbers at the wall. It comes off of a visualization that we see within the game where something seems to be lacking. And then we go and use numbers the best that we possibly can to try to quantify what we think we see. Because the eye test, we've gotten away from the eye test. We've gotten away from, this is what the situation says, this is what the numbers say. So,
Right now it's like, this is what the numbers say, so and you're like, but that's not what the situation is saying. I don't understand how these two things can work together when clearly there's something different happening on the field. So yeah, I think
And that's why I wanted
that's what we
to
try to do.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to get you guys on here, because you guys promote that production and in situational basis, but it's more of like analytic. It seems like the analytics that are being used widely around baseball today, like you said, kind of like, don't promote the offense. They kind of like just promote, hey, well, this is what it says in the fifth inning, you should do regardless. So it's not taking into consideration a pitching change per se, or even a righty lefty matchup. I've seen it to where the analytics are still like, hey, keep the righty in there against the lefty, or don't steal here. It's like, what? And then going back to your guys's talking points about lesser teams with lesser payroll taking advantage. You brought up Toronto. I think another good one that could make a splash in a weak division this year is Pittsburgh. They've got all the pitching in the world. If they just adapt to what you guys are talking about, there's no doubt in my mind they could at least be a wild card team.
it's so funny because that was the first team, the very first video we had ever made was about Pittsburgh playing small ball,
Yeah.
and saying, hey, you've got the weapons when it comes to the starting rotation. You've got speed on this team. Don't try to win the way the Dodgers do. There are other ways to win. There are other ways to get to the finish line, aside from, going and getting star players. You got to, I think another video that we had made was one about classic lineup construction.
Mhm.
And now it just seems like we're in a backwards place where we put our best hitter in the one spot.
Yeah, it
And you're
drives me
like,
crazy.
and you're like, wait,
Glad
why?
we're not the only one here.
Yeah. I don't like
Like-
seeing Trout lead off.
You're like, why would you? So you get 4 at bats a game, hypothetically, right?
Mhm.
So why are you eliminating the runners potentially on base in the first at bat? Okay, so there's nobody going to be on base. There just won't be,
Guaranteed, yeah.
guaranteed. And then for the remaining 3 at bats, it's the 8 and 9 guys who are in front of your best hitter, who are probably the lowest on base percentage players on your team. Why are you lowering the potential impact of your best bat by hitting him up in the leadoff spot?
You should be like third,
Yes,
fourth.
exactly. There's you need to surround your best player, your best bat doesn't just get on base, but he drives the ball and drives in runs. So by putting two guys in front of him who are great on base guys and two guys behind him who can drive him in when he cracks a double, that's the best impact that he will have. I would rather him sitting in a more impactful position than getting him 20 to 40 more at bats that have no impact. Right. I'd rather him be in a more impactful place than just like, oh, well, the more at bats he gets will be better. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
So
No, I agree. I mean, we always hear in Anaheim had, like a Sean Figgins leading off with an Eric Ibar, too high impact on base kind of guys in front of like a Trout or a Guerrero or a Torrey Hunter and stuff like that. Guys who can come up there and drive a guy in, try to work it that way. But yeah, you're right. They flip the lineups, and it's so weird. It's so weird how they do things nowadays. But we'll transition into Mike Trout here in a second, but I want to have you guys catch up the fans, or at least tell the fans your guys' experience in two different places. Now, Joel's from Toronto. You got to catch the Blue Jays in the World Series. That was oh so close, and man, we were rooting for you. A lot of us Angel fans were rooting for the Blue Jays, so we're just as heartbroken. I want to get your guys' first take on that, the experience of being in the World Series in general, and then just the vibe in Toronto.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And that's probably the best way to encapsulate it. It was my first time at Rogers Center, so that was a great experience in and of itself. And just the fan base, you don't just have a state or a city, you have the entire country that is rooting for the Blue Jays. And then of course you have a lot of people like yourself, Todd, who were like, well, I'm not really for the Dodgers, so I'm here for the Blue Jays.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
It felt like the fandom was so great at Rogers Center. And of course, being able to experience, we got to go to games 1 and 2. So we got to experience a win and a loss. And obviously the energy was very different both times. But even at that same time, even when Blue Jays had lost, the fans were there till the very end. Like they were cheering till the very end. Even just the fan experience of going there, we were sitting in the 500 level, and at Dodger Stadium, that's like nosebleed and you can barely see anything, which, mind you, I think is a fantastic stadium. But at Rogers Center, you could see everything so clearly. They had the dome too, so my California self that gets cold easily was not cold. I was like bundling up with a scarf and a jacket. This is, it's during the cold season, and I was quickly taking them off because it was like 74 degrees. It was fantastic. So no, it was, and I didn't even talk about actually getting to be on the field, so that was just more like the fan experience, but I'll let you chime in for that.
Yeah, I'll talk about that. I also wanted to talk about how it was a situation with the Blue Jays. Obviously that's my team, so I'm pretty high on them, but you were watching one team that has Clayton Kershaw on it, but he's not getting a start. You got the old veteran Hall of Famer, one of the greatest pitchers that you've ever seen. But this team is so stacked that Clayton's not even getting a start in 7 games. And then the other team, you've got Max Scherzer, and he's getting the ball. Like, we need Max Scherzer to get us outs. Like, this was a baseball team that needed every single player that they had. They were totally reliant, everybody up and down the lineup. And it felt like an old school classic baseball team that had some holes and it had some issues. And they weren't all stars up and down the lineup, but they did everything that they needed to do to be able to compete with, pretty much an all-star team from top to.
So wasn't, again, like, this isn't the guys going up just trying to get the home run. They're like, no, we're just trying to get on base. And then that will end up producing runs, which it did for them consistently.
Yeah, and I think that watching that's why a lot of fans were sitting there going, oh, this is a team that I can root for. This is a team that I can cheer for, because they're doing it the way that I want to see. And, just watching the other team throw out, the Cy Young winner, 2-time Cy Young winner, 4-time MVP, Cy Young winner, MVP. And you're just like, okay, that's enough. So it was nice to see a David versus Goliath, even though the Goliath won. But at any point, you thought that slingshot could work and drop the giant. And then with being on the field, we were so lucky that game 2 we were on the field and we got to meet just amazing people. We were hanging out with Jordan the Stallion, and
that was completely unexpected.
Yeah. Who's
we were like, oh, I didn't know that you're a huge baseball fan. Turns out he almost got drafted with the Mets. So
Oh, wow.
that was such an interesting experience, and just the nicest, most down to earth guy.
Yeah, we were.
And Jeff Passan, we got to meet Bob Nightingale, Greg Amsinger, and the commissioner himself. So
Yeah, Rob Manfred, weirdly enough, is surrounded by all the reporters, and Rob Manfred comes over and takes a picture with Brooke, and we're just sitting there like our page is 3 months old, and we're taking pictures with Rob Manfred. But
that's a little
like,
boost.
Yeah, right. Like
it felt nice. It felt nice.
Whatever your opinion on Manfred is, but it's like, hey, you're sitting there talking to the commissioner at the World Series, like that's pretty nuts. So we had a very out of body experience getting to do that, and the wild situation of being with Jordan the Stallion, where you're walking through the stadium with him and everybody's turning their head recognizing him, but then when you get on the field, everybody was recognizing Brooke, and they thought that like all the baseball players and all the reporters and everything thought that Jordan the Stallion was Brooke's like assistant, because they were standing next to each other. So it was such a role reversal where, when we were with the people, everybody saw him, but when we were down on the baseball field, everybody saw her. So it was really
surreal out of body experience. So it was incredible. Couldn't have asked for a better one.
Well, yeah, maybe just the Blue Jays winning, because we were right there. But that's great. You had a great experience, because, I mean, that was a hell of a World Series. I could tell a lot of the fans around here, a lot of Angel fans are like, yeah, man, it sucks that the Blue Jays lost. I'm like, yeah, but you still can't deny it. It was one of the best World Series, if not the best I've ever seen.
Best I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was so close, and you just felt for the Toronto fans. I will say this, Joel, you being a Blue Jay fan, I had questions when Guerrero re-signed, because obviously with his father playing here for so many years, a lot of Angels fans wanted him to sign, but we had to, tell them on a nightly basis, hey, he's not going to come here. Our owner's too cheap. But I was a little shocked he re-signed with Toronto, with that division being so tough, and then I was thinking, man, either he's signing for the money or he knows that this team's on the up and up. How did you feel about that when he re-signed there in Toronto?
I think we've seen so many star players like Mookie in Boston, and all the star players that end up, well, obviously Ohtani not being re-signed.
You guys probably feel that
by the Angels.
I wanted to trade him 2 years prior, but go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry.
I understand wanting, like, you need to get something out of that.
Yeah.
But just the fact that all of these star players, if you've got somebody of that level, right? These guys don't come around. Like
Special players.
Vladdy is a Hall of Fame talent. At the end of his career, you're probably going to be looking at 500 plus home runs and 1,500 RBIs and all that, maybe 3,000 hits. All the numbers that you would expect to go along with a Hall of Famer. And these guys don't come along. Like, they just. So either you're going to put your money where your mouth is and you're going to sign your players, or you're going to let them all stack up on a team like the Dodgers, and then you're never going to win anything because you just weren't able to invest properly. Don't get me wrong, I was
heartbroken.
Yeah,
I know what he's about to say.
I was heartbroken to lose Bo. It was really that duo that they had been over 6 years together, and I wanted to see them win together. But they didn't lose their 2 stars. They lost one. He can opt out and come back at any time. We'll happily take him back. But
he's getting some pretty good new players.
Yeah, it's good to know that, like, they went out and got Dylan Cease, Akamoto, and so it's good to see a team that has the money. They have the second most money behind the Dodgers, I'm pretty sure, or behind the Mets, and they're out there and they're spending the money. So it's nice to see.
Definitely, because I think they had some down years, but you can't deny that fan base. That fan base is always there. I know every time the Angels will go up there, it's a packed Rogers Center. So, and it looks nice with the renovations. We got a lot of people to see it for the first time in the postseason. So that was cool.
One
you
thing
guys,
I will actually add, I'm sorry to
you're good.
interrupt, but something that I liked about Rogers Center that reminds me of Angel Stadium is the fan base itself. Like what I love about Angel Stadium is very family friendly.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about a brawl that's about to happen or it's just baseball in its most pure form. And I think that's why Joel and I love going to Angel Stadium because we get to experience that with the fans, whether it's a full stadium or most of the time it's not. You just get to have like the most pure baseball fan experience, and that's what it felt like in some ways. Going to Rogers Center was just like a lot of like family friendly
Yeah.
people there.
No matter if
Yeah.
they're winning or losing, both of those teams do their best to make sure it's a great experience for families.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
at baseball at its core, any game over 162 can be the game that turns you into a fan. And I think that a negative experience or something that is a little bit more, I'm not going to say anything negative about any other fan bases, but there are places that you can go to where you sit down and you've got an 8-year-old kid with you, and all of a sudden some words are coming out of some people's mouths, and you're like, I don't know if I want to bring my kid back here. So it's, Angel Stadium has never been that. Rogers Center has never been that.
Yeah.
So they're two fan bases that really grow the game from a family perspective, and I think that's what's most important.
Yeah, I'd have to agree 100% with that, guys, because I know when Disney owned it, I think they conditioned the Anaheim fans not to be cursing and swearing in front of kids and to be, respectful, keep the trash talk to the, nothing personal, stuff like that. And I think I think fans are still scared that Mickey's going to come out with a belt or something because, because
I like that.
Hey,
I know.
Disneyland's right around the corner, so
Yeah, I mean, they had better security back in the day. Nowadays, they don't have the security Disney had, but still, I think people mostly follow the fans or follow the ushers and the way the Angels want to do things. So yeah, I'll give you that too. You guys also did some traveling to the DR. You guys want to talk about that and what you were able to observe and enjoy down there?
It was an incredible experience. So Joel and I are in the middle of filming a docu-series. It's going to be on YouTube as well as a couple other platforms. And really it came about because we wanted to capture baseball beyond borders. We know that obviously I would say a lot of content creators and a lot of media in general focuses so much on MLB that once it comes time for the off season, it's still on MLB. And Joel and I are sitting here, we're like, there's so much more baseball though. You don't have to stop watching it at the end of the World Series during the last game or the last out of the game or the second out. But we wanted to be able to showcase like it migrates south, in other words, right? So we went to the Dominican Republic. First of all, the talent that comes out of the Dominican Republic is insane. And that was another point of us going to the DR first, as opposed to, Japan or Mexico or somewhere else, is out of all of the different countries that make up MLB, Dominican, aside from American or US, is the highest percentage of players. So we wanted to be able to see like what makes the Dominican so special. Why is watching baseball out there different than watching it in the US? And what we got was just a very embracing, welcoming experience. I think they just have like a different flavor, I guess. They really don't just watch it as a pastime. It is their lifeline. Baseball comes before anything else out there. And I think there's highs and lows to that too. But as far as the experience, I mean, we got to go on the field. We had field access. The team that we had originally reached out to us saying, hey, if you come out here, you can have field access. They ended up being the team that went to the World Series. And then the other team that we had access to won their World Series. So it was just this like crazy experience. And then we ended up getting to interview the commissioner of Dominican baseball. I feel like we're just going to go around and I'm just going to check off the different commissioners from the different countries now. Be like, got to talk to him. It was such a great experience. And I think Junior Noboa, he is very focused on bringing education into baseball because that's something that's very different out there than it is in the States. In the States, you, growing up, play baseball recreationally. You can even play it competitively, but school is always the priority. You have to have certain GPA, right? You have to make good grades to get into collegiate level. Out in the DR, a lot of kids are pushed baseball because that's their ticket out of the country and to really make that generational money for their families. So you see kids dropping out of school at like 12 years old just to focus on baseball. And what I really appreciated about talking to the commissioner there is they didn't shy away from that conversation, which I like. We came in fully anticipating that to be the situation, to shy away from the black eye, but they're like, no, this is absolutely a problem. We want to be able to help bring education back into the baseball space and open up that conversation. So
Yeah, and we didn't have to go and instigate conversations that were polarizing. They were brought up to us. Our interest was not to go and say, hey, these are the issues with Dominican baseball. They were, the commissioner's office was very open about, well, we have issues with age players falsifying their age, or PEDs, or we never had to ask the question. They said, this is our focus. We're trying to fix our problems in these places. And we found that very refreshing, that they know what their issues are and they're attacking them with everything that they have. So we were really, really happy to hear that. And then
the fans out there are incredible. Oh my gosh. It felt like every single game that we went to was a World Series game, because we went January 2nd through 7th and then made a return trip shortly after on the 11th through the 25th. So we got to go during their round robin to see who was going to be ending up in the World Series. And like, even those games were just so electric. The stadiums were packed. The stadium sizes aren't quite as big as an MLB stadium. Maybe Santo Domingo.
Escogitos had, I think they could probably fit 10 to 15,000. Yeah.
But the fans are like, they're getting up, they're dancing, like they're having such a great time. And also, I mean, we were at a game, it was Escogido versus Aguilas, and the Escogidos would win, and then the guy behind me would like do a little dance, but his friend came with him, and the Aguilas, or not win but score, and the Aguilas would score, and then he would get up and also do a little dance, and it was kind of this like fun rivalry happening behind us, but like amongst friends. And that's very much the energy throughout any stadium that we went to while we were out there. So that was it was just, we really want to encapsulate the different cultures that make up baseball, and that was definitely a passionate one.
Yeah, we were so lucky because we went with our friend whose name is Orestes Destrade. He had played for the Marlins in MLB. He is a 3-time home run champion, RBI champion in the NPB in Japan. He holds the Dominican winter ball record for home runs in consecutive games with 5, still holds that record that he set back in the 80s. So he's kind of an icon down there. And then through him, he was our translator. So he was our kind of cultural guide, our generational guide, and then our translator to be able to speak Spanish, because neither of us speak Spanish. So that was just such a great experience to be able to bridge culture, bridge language, bridge generations. And then he, being so amazing, introduced us to Carlos Pena and Miguel Tejada, and we got to sit there. Like, Carlos Pena is the GM of the Escogidos, so during a postseason game, Carlos comes up and talks to us in the middle of a game, and it's such a great interview because Carlos is like hanging off of every single pitch, and he's watching, and it's like, okay, ball 1, now I can answer a question for about 22 seconds, and then I'm going to turn back and be like, and so you got that beautiful, like, in a game interview with a guy who's hanging off of every pitch. Miguel Tejada was so sweet to interview. And then when we came back for our second run in the Dominican, we spent a majority of our time with 2-time MVP Dale Murphy, who had started his career in the Dominican back in the late 70s. Had no idea
that was the case until we started planning for this trip. Got in contact with him. We had posted a video for his Hall of Fame push, and he, just very nice guy, had reached out to us to thank us. As we're doing more prep work for our trip, we saw that he has a foundation that goes out to the Dominican every single year. And it just so happened to get moved up to January, which was like a week after our trip was ending. And we're like, oh, but what if we just scooted along and joined them? And we got to do a lot more charitable work at that point, going to an orphanage, handing out equipment, education supplies, as well as baseball equipment. Going, Baseball Island is a foundation out there to bridge education and baseball together, and we got to go out and help them rebuild a field of theirs and remodel it. So it really was just this like mixture of culture, baseball, passion, and that's what we're intending to create on this docu-series, is just be able to have that fly on the wall perspective for anybody that watches it and almost get to experience it with us and let the country embrace you the way that it just opened its arms for us.
That's amazing. I'm so glad you guys had such a great impact down there on what you're going to cover, obviously coming up in that docu-series, but also you got so much out of it. It seems like you guys got to know a different side. I mean, the Dale Murphy thing, I didn't know either. And then the fact that they're addressing all those issues, that's a great thing. I mean, I wish MLB was more open like that. Question, a follow-up as far as the kids are concerned. Did you see a lot traveling through the DR, like just kids playing in backyards or on the street or at parks?
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
That's
awesome.
It's like, I think it feels like the way baseball felt in the United States, maybe in like the 1930s or 1940s, where it's just everywhere.
To be the biggest celebrity in the country is to be a ball player.
Yeah, it's like Babe Ruth, right? It's kind of got that feel, and something that like we're not just going to sit here and say that the Dominican is absolute pure heaven. You got to worry about driving. You got to worry about the food, the water, the location that you're going to stay. There are things to worry about, right? They're little, it's not just, hey, go and throw caution to the wind and everything's going to turn out. You need to plan things properly. It's good to have somebody who speaks Spanish with you if that's possible, or at least have Google Translator.
That's my best friend.
So, if you can take those issues into account when you go, beyond that, the baseball experience it's like a pilgrimage. It's like you're going back in time to this place where baseball is everywhere you go, and it's held in such high regard. So if you're a baseball fan, and you like to go to like maybe spring training or something like that, maybe one year just plan a trip to the Dominican, watch some winter ball, because
especially if you live in a place that is very cold, you get to experience summertime when you go to the Dominican during the winter time for us. And actually what was really cool that we didn't even realize until we got there, we were going to an Escogido game and we went through a different entrance. The Uber driver dropped stuff at a different entrance than we had been at before. So we're walking up to their entrance and there was just some kids playing stickball in this beaten down baseball field that had puddles everywhere because it was like torrential rain the day before, and these kids had climbed the fence to be able to play on the diamond, and it was just the most pure form of baseball because these kids they're just screaming their hearts out. It was actually funny because they saw that we were watching them, and so there was one kid that kind of spoke English, but not so much. And so he kind of tried talking to us a little bit. And this one kid slides in to home plate and they're all saying safe. And the kid's like, no, or out. And the kid's like, no, I was safe. And then they all look at me and they go, she was watching. What's your call?
She's a bystander. She can be the umpire, and it was.
They embrace you into it, like
that's cool.
It was so cool.
the quality of baseball. You're sitting there wondering, what is this? Single A, double A, triple A. This is like 4A ball. This is the Toros who we went and watched had John Kinsey Noel. They had Brian Dela Cruz. They the Aguilas. They had star players. Geraldo Perdomo was playing for the Aguilas, who had the highest WAR out of a position player in the National League last year. Aside from Ohtani, I just mean a strict position player. So you're looking at the radar gun and you're seeing 96, 97. You are seeing top tier, exceptional baseball. So it is really an amazing experience for baseball fans.
And that's awesome too. And I heard the fans sit on every pitch. They're just like into it. Like you said, it's a playoff game. And then the Sandlot thing gets me because I love that movie, and it just feels the way you guys are describing it. hearing the stories of like Vladimir Guerrero playing with like a milk carton as a glove, folded
Yeah.
up and everything, and stick ball, and it helps their hand-eye coordination. So I think a lot of these players that do leave the MLB who have never made that next step, they do go to Korea, they do go to the Dominican, and they find a different style, and
Yeah.
maybe they change their game to adapt to that, and then they're able to succeed once they return to the MLB. So that's awesome. You guys had those experiences, and I can't wait to see when you guys put out that docu-series. It sounds like you guys had a lot of fun and you got a lot of good content. I know you guys have got to go soon, but I got one last question for you. And I know Mayberry and Brady Anderson signed as hitting coaches this year, but if for whatever reason they fell, I'm gonna have you guys put in your resume with the way you guys talk about stats and just try to push the contact version of baseball. But I got to ask you, what's wrong with Mike Trout, in your opinion?
I like the way you asked it too. So we did put out a video where we were calling him out a bit, and let me just preface and say, obviously, I'm a social media gal, and I am not a professional baseball player. I'm not Mike Trout, and he deserves all the praise that he's gotten. It's just more so recently, and especially as we were going to a ton of Angels games last year, this is really where the conversation topic came up for me and Joel, and we're watching him not swing at the first pitch, especially when it's down the middle. And so this is the eye test, right? So Joel and I start watching this more and more, and we're seeing it more and more. So then now we're starting to look up the numbers and the percentages of times that he's actually not swinging at the first pitch. The only thing that you have guaranteed in the game is swing, please. Like you are hired to make contact with the ball. That's especially now, right? In a DH role. So Joel's the stats guy, right? He knows these numbers like in and out. Can you throw out the numbers?
Yeah, so like Brooke said, the only guaranteed count that you get in an at-bat is 0-0, right? That's the only guaranteed count. You can go up there and hope that 3-1 is going to roll around. You can hope 3-0 or 2-0 or some advantageous batting count is going to come your way, but it may not come for 3 days. You may sit 0-2 10 times in a row because you're just sitting there and letting that first pitch go by. And something that we went and we looked at is that in 120 instances, he saw a first pitch that was down the middle. And what I mean by down the middle is the 8, 4, and 2 columns in the 9 quadrants of the strike zone. So either middle up, middle down. He saw 120 pitches that were in those zones that he did not swing at to put him 0-1. So those are 120 pitches that I want him. I'm like, when we put the video out, I think people were thinking that we wanted him to swing at every 0-0 pitch. No, he swings at about 15% of 0-0 pitches. Corey Seager's probably at the high end, swinging at 60. We would like to see him jump that number to 25-30%. Swing at 25 to 30% of first pitches, especially situational. If you want to come up in your first at bat and let that first pitch go to get a gauge on the pitcher, that's fine. But something that's very important to know also is that when you don't swing at a pitch, you don't get any understanding of where you are with that pitch. So if you're auto taking and you watch that pitch go by, the next time that you swing at it, if you watch it, you don't know how your hands react to it. You don't know how you get to the ball. So maybe you get it again, but you're swinging at it 0-1 and you foul it off. It's just like the muscle memory and the understanding that you get of a pitch when you swing at it is very different than when you just watch it. And I always think that something that is lost in the game is the ability to gauge those pitches in the batter's box. If you want to sit there and you want to watch those pitches, the batter's box, sitting on deck. When you're on deck and you're sitting there and you're watching the guy in front of you, that's when you should be timing things. That's when you should be looking at release point and understanding all these things so that when you can get up to the plate, you have 3 strikes. Okay. And in this day and age where velocity is up, spin rate is up, and balls are harder to hit than ever, the fact that you eliminate one of those strikes and you try to perform on only 2 strikes is That's not a recipe for success. Mike has put down a 15-year scouting report for pitchers that say, hey, that first pitch is yours. Flip it. I don't think
Yeah.
any Angels fan would sit there and get mad at Mike Trout for being more aggressive.
No, I mean, because to your point, Vladimir Guerrero used to be a free swinger and most often swing at the first pitch, whether it was in the dirt or up or eye level. So yeah,
Mhm.
we've seen so many times, and I got to run this by you real quick. I know we're up against it, but I just got to ask you guys because this is what I see watching this guy every night. He's so behind on the fastballs. Like I've never seen like a scouting report tell you to a power hitter, hey, the preferred pitch to get him out is a fastball. Whereas other hitters, power hitters, you're like, hey, throw a slurve, throw a slider, throw a changeup, stuff like that. Then two, I think with his age progression, his leg kick is making his swing a little bit later. Do you guys
Mhm.
think that maybe if he were to eliminate that and go more into a crouching stance, he would be better as far as on base percentage and also making connection?
I mean, I think like sorry to bring it back to the Blue Jays on an Angels podcast,
No,
but like
it's
Bo,
cool. It's cool.
well, I guess it's not Blue Jays anymore. Sorry, Joel. But Bo, he has a specific approach where he will only have his leg kick during the first swing, and then he crouches down a little bit more. He
Oh wow.
truncates himself and he grounds himself, and then he takes a different approach. So maybe it's just like a slight tweak like that. It's hard because if you are somebody that has been doing this for your entire life and you've been practicing a certain way, to just make an adjustment like that, it's impossible to ask someone to do that. But like maybe start working on different ways that you can tweak it so that way you're not always having a huge leg kick. And you're right, I mean, he's had so many injuries that he's not as fast as he used to be, and that's also part of the problem, right? When you're not swinging at the first pitch, you end up getting more walks, which some people would argue, well, that's better if you get on base then, but he's not stealing bases either. So
Correct.
that's also, I think, part of the argument. The just watching to see the first pitch and be able to gauge, to Joel's point, you should be doing that on deck. I don't think that's something that you should be doing in the box. And the leg kick, I think if he tweaked it to maybe only do that for the first pitch, if he's actually going to start swinging, then adjust it from there.
I think another thing that you look at is if he was as healthy as we've seen him last year, that's as healthy as he's been in a long, long time. Like
Yeah, 5
he
years.
played about 35, nearly 140 games last year.
Correct.
So in that scenario, he walked, I believe, about 75 times. I think he struck out about 178, 180 times. So that means that 250 of your 550 plate appearances are either a walk or a strikeout. Those are not driving anybody in. You're not driving anybody in. And if there's somebody at second base and you're putting yourself at first, yeah, I understand the clogging up the base paths idea because the speed isn't there. The 5-tool guy that Mike Trout was, he is no longer. He is fundamentally at his best trying to be David Ortiz now. Everything is based off of the bat. So the bat's got to eat. The bat's got to get the job done. And I want him swinging at pitches that he knows he can handle. I don't want him letting go of stuff that's down the middle. And I need more situations if 250 times he is not able to drive in a run because he's either walking or striking out. I need more outcomes earlier in at bats. I need more outs or hits happening on the first pitch, second pitch, third pitch, where the strikeout is far less likely to happen because, walks he is not Ricky Henderson. And striking out 180 times in 130 games. By eliminating walks, you will also eliminate strikeouts. By hitting the ball more, you will actually get walked more because what will happen is there will be a fear in the pitcher. His intentional walks don't exist anymore. Nobody's intentionally walking Mike Trout anymore. So you got to put some fear in the pitcher to say, oh, wow, I don't want Mike Trout hitting one out here. I'm going to put him on in 4 pitches. You can get actually more walks by getting less walks. That's a weird thing to say, but you gain more respect because they fear your bat more and they will just put you on by putting 4 fingers up. We want more of those walks than we do the ones that come with the potential strikeout.
That's great points. I mean, again, get your resumes ready because we may need you guys in 2027. So, guys, I really appreciate your time. I want you to throw out all your social media and anything you can, preview for that, or if you don't have any information yet. I know it's a work in progress, but that upcoming docu-series as well before we get out of here.
That's awesome. Todd, thank you so much. You've been such a pleasure to have us on this. You're so sweet, and really appreciate the insightful questions that you've been asking. As far as social media goes, at Brooke Knows Ball, Brooke with an E, Knows Ball. That's on Instagram, TikTok, and now more recently YouTube. That's where we're going to be releasing our docu-series. Our goal is to have the docu-series out before WBC ends, and by that I mean the pilot episode out, not the entire series.
Okay.
Because we will be filming some of it actually at WBC. So
Nice.
we want to start releasing it at that time, going into spring training, and really have it start going with the season as it starts to progress.
Joel?
Nothing else?
That's perfect. No, that's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it. And like Brooke said, we're going to go down to Dominican one more time to watch the Tigers play the national team, which is going to be absolutely amazing to watch. Then we're going to head to Miami and watch some WBC, and that will be the way to take this docu-series from very grassroots at the beginning, watching winter ball, all the way up to the grandest stage there is, which is 56,000 people in Miami watching WBC games in, Team Japan potentially in the semifinals, Team USA in the finals. That's baseball on the grandest stage there is right now. So we're very excited.
Absolutely. I love the WBC, so I can't wait. And I'm continued safe travels for you too. And thanks again for the time that you've given us here on Halos in the Infield. I'm sure you're going to get some more followers coming your way because, again, this is baseball at its best, its purest. I love how you guys break it down, the videos that you make and the content that's up and coming. Can't wait. So for Todd Fox on Halos in the Infield, Brooke Knows Ball, and Joel right there, thank you again for coming on the show. Hope to have you on again soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for watching the Halos in the Infield podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe on your way out.